All right, what's up, family? So, today is the 5th year anniversary of my second book, Deja's Watchtower, and I figured I'd use this moment to tell you 3 things that I learned from self-publishing this book. Now, number 1, as a self-publisher, your greatest superpower is the freedom that you have. When you have a big publisher that you have to report to and it's overhead. You got a big conference room table of people that you have to tell all your ideas to and explain, the character's about to do this and about to do that. And, this is the plan for the series going forward. And what do you think? And all of that. I've never necessarily experienced that. I've been self-publishing since 2016, but I can imagine, right? Because there are things that are similar that kind of drain my creative energy, like having conversations like that. Now, don't get me wrong. That is an added stability. That is accountability. That is some sort of, it kind of gives you something to hold on to sometimes. And it keeps you accountable for your journey as a writer. In terms of like sticking to the story and making sure things don't go too far left. But it also can be very constricting. It also can be very restricting and not really giving you room to grow as a writer. With this book right here, even flipping through it, this is my fiance's copy, so it's even better. But flipping through it, looking at how I laid out the words, the paragraphs, I should say, even the font in general, beyond the format. When you talk character development, when you talk the overall the setting, this was the first time that I used a fictional setting. The first book was very cut and dry. That was the prequel to all of that. The first book in the series. The first book in the series was very cut and dry. It was literally in College Park, Maryland. That's it. Nothing crazy. And the second book, completely fictional place. It took place in North Carolina, but the city was made up. And I fell in love with it. I've been writing like that ever since. And I don't know how a committee of publishers would have reacted if I brought that up as a writer, basically saying yo, I want to take this out of College Park, Maryland, and create this entirely new and fake city and do things over there and see how it goes. I just really don't know how that conversation would have went. I don't even know if that's a conversation that I want to have or wanted to have. And I guess that is a conversation that at some point we do want to have, because we all want the big book contracts, in some way, shape, or form. But while we're in this self-publishing phase, that freedom of not having to report to anybody there's no other way to say it. It's a tool. It's a superpower. It allows us to thrive and learn as much as we want as a writer, even beyond learning, practicing as much as we want as a writer. And it creates for an awesome moment, an awesome experience for readers if you're able to bring them in on that journey as well. I don't think I brought up the location thing, because I just thought about that as I'm recording this, but I do specifically remember putting this book out and telling the people that are in that tier of readers that I know the ins and outs about the characters. They know the ins and outs about the plot lines in general. They had a different relation to it. They enjoyed it on a different level. I remember sharing with that group of readers that, this was the first time that I did some of these character development things. This was the first time that, I stepped into this fantasy aspect of it all and got away from the from the hyper realism and just really focused on just getting super creative on the world that I was seeing one of the main characters in. In fact, it's two main characters in the series. It's a couple. It's a married couple, and the husband isn't even mentioned in this book. Like it was a really ambitious pivot, really ambitious, like just growth point for me as a writer in general. And I don't know if I could have done that if I didn't have the superpower of self-publishing, which is freedom. So tap into that. Try new things, publish new things, and enjoy the journey with your readers. The second thing that I learned is that when you don't stay committed as a self-publisher, the failure is loud and it's heavy. The reason I bring that up is because we wear a lot of hats. And the first book was published during a time of my life when I was very focused on career stuff. So I was able to wear those hats, and I also was able to have a team of people around me that could carry the load in some aspects. The second book was written when I was in grad school. I was trying to finish up grad school, actually. And, it was just a lot of things pulling my attention. It was a very turbulent time. In fact, having conversations with that top tier reading group, as I mentioned before, we would talk about how turbulent the words were, how turbulent the writing was, like the overall plot of the book was very chaotic. I was about to say violent, but that's not it. It's chaotic. It was a lot going on in my personal life. It was just a lot of change, if you will. And it made it very difficult to stay committed to the plan. It even made it difficult to develop a plan from the first place. But once the plan was developed, I can honestly say that looking back, I probably gave this book, you're gonna laugh. I probably gave this book a solid month post-publish time. A solid month of marketing, pushing, hey, this is my new book. A solid month of like, you should check it out, blah, blah, blah. Let me send you a copy. After that month, I can't even say I was on to the next book. After that month, I was like, cool. Whoever gonna get it and just move on. Let me get back to school. I also, should I save that for number 3? Because they kind of tied in. I'll just say this. I also was under the spell of thinking that everybody had already read the first book and they've been waiting, clamoring for this second book. So I really, I fell off with the promotion, but it'll, people want it. So they'll go get it. They'll find it. It'll be popping. Nothing could be furthest from the truth. It is very key that we stay committed to this whole thing. In fact, let's go ahead. That leads to number 3. Your sequel is someone's introduction to you. Your sequel is the first time that somebody even heard of you. Not your writing, not your book, you as a person. And I forgot that. Forgetting that went hand in hand with me no longer being enthused about telling the world about my book. Does that make sense? It got to a point where, so the compound of thinking, right, was like, I don't have to push it because they already know. I don't have to push it because this is my second book. So they're already aware that I write books and they're already waiting for this one. That thinking was so boxed in that looking back 5 years later, I'm now thinking about how much success I left on the table because that thinking didn't even allow me to develop a marketing campaign for the series to, you know, not just push the second book on its own, but, this is the series. This is the whole thing. Hey, you can bundle these two for X amount of dollars. Hey, I want you to check out my series of books. I'll send you 2 copies. I was so narrow-minded, in thinking that everybody wanted the second book and everybody already had the first one. There's no need to sell the first one because they already got the second one. It was just, the way this thing works is it's just based on leads, honestly, as a self-publisher. I mean, and I guess even when you sell anything in general, because even the big publishers, they have to rely on advertising and word of mouth and, the New York Times bestseller list, all of that stuff. Like, we're just trying to gather as many leads as possible. And when we have a series of books, one book is a lead for another and vice versa. So you can sell the second one and then lead them to the first one, saying, hey, I didn't know this was your first time tapping into this series. I don't know if you know, but there's a book before this. You might need to read it so you can see what's going on, because you're missing out. Check it out. Matter of fact, I'll send it to you. Or the other way around. Hey, I see you bought my first book. It's crazy because I just released my second book. You see, it's a lead this way and a lead that way. But when you have that narrow-minded thinking of like everybody is clamoring for your book and has already read your book, and I'm tired of it. I wrote it a year ago. I don't want to sell it anymore. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just want to move on. And it's only been a year. When you have that narrow-minded thinking, it's like it's just so you don't leave room to meet more people and to share things with more people. And looking back, I hate it because, and this is the same thing for you as a writer as well, I put so much pain into this book. I like really released a lot of internal stuff in that book. You do the same thing when you write, whether you realize it or not. A lot of those words are heavy because it's coming from in here. You're freeing yourself, you're freeing your soul, you're freeing your mind of whatever's going on. As I mentioned, it was a turbulent time for me. It was a lot of change going on, a lot of things I was trying to understand, a lot of just chaos, and it just naturally came out in the pages. Probably the same thing for you. It's probably happened for you like that as well. But it takes so much courage to share such intimate pieces of yourself. It's kind of like when you don't deliver on the campaign side, then all of that sharing, all of that like openness, all of that vulnerability was for nothing. You're just exposing yourself, exposing your pain, exposing your shadows, your darkness for no reason. You're not even like getting the payoff of it, of the courage that you have to share when you don't plan and commit and stay true to the campaign. And I think that's what's bothering me so much now. Like, I don't know if you could look on my face and tell that I'm kind of all over the place. I guess the other thing is I'm still trying to get used to all the lights and stuff. But, on one end, I'm really looking back at this like, it's crazy to write 400 pages of this story that, is near and dear to your heart. Part of a series is near and dear to your heart. And the words are just full of all sorts of your pain, all sorts of your emotion and things that you're trying to release. And you felt, especially in this moment, I'm legit feeling the specific moment that I like hit publish on it, and then looking back and saying, man, was it all for nothing? It's just a big waste, and that's why we have to stay committed. That's exactly why, because it's really courageous to share all of this stuff. And it's even better when you deliver on that courage by staying committed and delivering on the campaign and sharing your story with as many people as possible, So, again, 5th year, happy 5th year anniversary to Deja's Watchtower. Thank you so much for the support, for anybody that's read any single word that I've written. I really appreciate that. And to you as a writer, it's very important that you continue to write. Somebody needs to hear your story. I know that, like, even with this book in particular, I remember a specific conversation that I had with someone on Facebook Messenger back then, just about how much the chaos in this book, how much that chaos meant to them. And I was like, well, wow, like, I didn't know that, because that's my life, so here we are relating on that level, and that is the benefit, the payoff of sharing your story and understanding that someone needs to hear your words. As dramatic as it sounds, that story that you're holding on to, that story that you're looking to put out, do it. Don't wait on a big publisher. I mean, when they come knocking on your door, see how much they're offering. That's dope. That's awesome. We all want to live financially free. I get it. It makes a lot of sense. But don't hoard your story waiting on that moment. There's someone relying on you to get those words out. And hopefully these tips today can help you to develop your story and can help you to put your story out and make it an absolute success. Again, make sure you are up to date with everything and get connected on our channel. Just hit that subscribe button. You know where it's at. I ain't even got to say nothing else. But I had been talking a little bit about the importance of not quitting and perseverance and staying in there. And it might have been on my mind because I literally just did a video on all of this. You can check it out somewhere on the screen.